Our course begins with a foundational event in the history of Western philosophy, the trial and death of Socrates in 399 BCE. Now remember, the Milesian natural philosophers like Thales, Anaximenes, and Anaximander have been concerned with discovering answers to questions like, what is the basic substance of life? Or how can something like a guppy transform into a frog? Or a seed grow into a tree? Socrates refocused the attention of philosophy squarely on human morality. He asked, what does it mean to live a good life? Socrates was an Athenian officer during the Peloponnesian Wars in the 5th century BC, which pitted the Athenians against their arch rivals, the Spartans. Socrates became a popular teacher in the city during the period of turbulent political and intellectual unrest which followed Athens' defeat by the Spartans. He was known to walk the streets of the city barefoot, clad in a simple toga, all the while collecting a group of youthful philosophers who were attracted to his rigorous critiques of conventional moral thinking. Teaching in the city at the same time were the Sophists, a group of controversial teachers who had achieved important positions working with the youths of some of Athens' most important families. The Sophists charged huge fees for teaching their students their specialty, the public speaking skills of rhetoric and grammar, essential skills for debaters in a new democracy. The Sophists taught that the gods did not exist and that there was no single moral truth. As Protagoras bluntly proclaimed, man is the measure of all things. The Sophists believed that moral truth varied according to culture, or nomos. Socrates rejects this way of thinking as moral relativism. He believes that one universal truth, physis, exists which holds true in all times and all places, and the duty of human beings is to search for this truth by discovering and practicing virtue. Socrates taught us that we can only follow this path by exploring our own thoughts, motivations, and actions. No one can give you the answers. You must find them for yourself, and the process is not easy. Socrates believed that all people possess a divine voice, a conscience. He believed this voice is innate. We're born with it. And by listening to our soul, we can find our way to the truth. Sadly, though, we lose track of our inner voice when we're overwhelmed by fears and desires. People can just get lost. We allow the urges of our senses rather than the promptings of reason to choose for us in difficult moral situations. We can also let other people make decisions for us because we're afraid of being rejected by them. Rediscovering the truth requires painful soul searching. Our inner voice reminds us when we're on the verge of doing something which is wrong, but doing the right thing, that is harder to figure out. When the Delphic oracle named Socrates the wisest man alive, he responded incredulously. How could he who knew so little about wisdom be wise? But when he thought about it, he had to agree, because most of the wise people whom he had met really weren't so smart. They just thought they were. Only Socrates acknowledged how little wisdom he or any other human possesses. A philosopher is a thinker who recognizes how little he truly understands the world, even why we make the choices that we make every day. Philosophy literally means love of wisdom. Socrates was the first true moral philosopher. He instilled in his students not only the desire to pursue truth, but also the humility to appreciate the difficulty of the task. Socrates also gave us a tool to help us find our way, reason, and he gave us hope. He believed that the application of reason to our decision-making process can help us discover the truth. And once we do so, Socrates argues, we cannot help but do the right thing. Socrates was willing to die for this belief. In the Apology, Plato quoted Socrates as saying, "A man who is good for anything ought not to calculate the chance of living or dying. He ought only to consider whether in doing anything he is doing right or wrong, acting the part of a good man or a bad." Later he said, "The greatest good of man is to daily converse about virtue, and the life which is unexamined is not worth living." Thank you.